All right, thank you all for joining our design review call with the Galoy and Lana team. And as I just mentioned, this is probably our fifth or sixth call here with Galoy over the last several years. So it's a special one. It's very cool to see what they've been cooking. And as I mentioned before, too, there's a document in the chat. Feel free to take your notes, put everything in there. I think, Sandipan, if I see it correctly, we have kind of a short presentation and then there's QA time. Is that right?
Yeah,
Is there
that's
anything else that you want everyone to know before we kind of let you take the reins?
absolutely. Like I would welcome everybody to, like, I don't want to be speaking all the time, like just me speaking. I want it to be very interactive, and because Lana, the product that we have built, is a bank application, so there will be a lot of terminologies which might be a little bit unfamiliar to people. So back and forth continuous session. Please interrupt me anytime you feel like awkward and you don't follow through. So yeah.
Great. Yeah, there's the hand feature, the raise your hand feature in the toolbar in the center. If you have a question, just raise your hand, and then Sandipan, if you see that, you can just call people out.
Awesome.
That way, you can finish your thought and then answer questions. So let's go. Thank you for being here. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you for having us. So let me quickly share, and yeah, I think it's visible. So hi everybody. So I am Sandeepan, and I have been working with Gala for like 3 years now, and we are very proud to announce that we have our new flagship product, Lana, which is a digital asset-backed lending product. It can hold Bitcoin as the backing for the lending, and it can also hold other things. You can bring in your own stuff. So, just a brief history about Galoy. So we have been founded on in 2019, and it's almost been like 5 years in the journey. We were previously maintainers of Blink, and now Blink has been a separate entity, but we still own the project, I think, for now. Uh, Current mission and vision of us is to build a banking stack for based on Bitcoin as collateral, and we are very proud to announce that we have a kind of proof of concept ready for our project. Previously, before Lana, we have thought about what would be the building blocks for any bank that we wanted to create. And I feel we have kind of done that using our three previous products. So we previously made Kala, and it's still actively maintained, which is a double entry accounting ledger. And any bank, for to create any bank, you need a ledger at the back end, right? So Kala is the ledger. We have our Bitcoin bridge. So Bria is the Bitcoin bridge, and the applications can talk to Bria. And if you integrate Bria into your any existing application, you can be talking to any Bitcoin provider, Electrum, uh, Bitcoin CLI, etc. And then we have stable sats, using which you can hold USD against short-term Bitcoin volatility. It was very famous, and it's like all of these things are actively used in the Blink product. Now we are here. We are basically creating the Lana product, and let's dive into what Lana is, right, and how it builds up. So this is the entire list of product features that we have right now. But don't get overwhelmed, because we are going to like delve through each and every one of them. And after that, we would want some feedback from the Bitcoin design team, right? So features of the Lana application is that we have customer management, we have the administration. So the administration is basically what the bank managers, what the bank administrators can do, right? So you need to onboard customers, you need to talk to the customers using some sort of communication channel. Authentication is there, right? And anything that the bank users are doing needs to get audited, because you need to have an audit trail, so that in case of any discrepancy, you can just see who did what, and you can revisit that thing, right? But the fundamental reason why banks exist are loans, right? They provide loans, and we have the credit facility or the loans in our feature set, which allows you to create a credit facility up to a certain amount, and you can disburse amounts inside of it. It's like a credit line. It's like uh, once you create a credit facility, you can create disbursals, and the user can repay back. The customer can repay money back. And for any bank to be functional, you need to have reports, regulatory reports that need to go to the governments, and you also need some sort of chart of accounts, balance sheets, profit and loss, trial balance, right? So this entire list of things is what Lana is. I think I can do this. So this entire list is what Lana is, and we also are going to support integrations into bring your own custodians, other core banking platforms, and KYC checks. So KYC integrations is already there using SumSub, but yeah, this like a brief product feature list, and let's see into the application design now. So as I said, in order to make any bank functional, there needs to be actors, right? There needs to be people who are going to use it. And if you think about it, there are two kinds of actors in this entire system. There is a user and there is a customer. The user can have multiple roles, like user can be a bank manager, they can be an accountant who just is going to do some entry into the accounts or something like that, right? And bank managers would be people who can approve loans, who can go ahead and create loans. They are a little bit more administrative, they have more administrative power, right? And so the users can onboard customer, create the credit facility for their customers. They can approve loans, they can generate the reports, they can monitor risks on existing loans, right? So this is one side of the story. This is for the bank's internal people, bank's internal users. And the other side of the story is the customers who need to make sure that they have done their KYC, who can see their checking balance. They can request for loans. They can create they can ask for new loans for the from the bank, and they after they have some active loans, they can see when is the next repayment date, what amount they have to pay next time, right? So these are the two actors who are there in the entire system. uh, so coming to the authentication that we have done, and so basically after every kind of product feature that I'm going to talk about, I'm going to show a demo of how that builds up, so that we have a clear understanding and we can have a one-on-one mapping from the slide to what is there in the real world. So for the authentication that we have built up for the users, so I think I need to clarify something else. So this user terminology is for the bank's internal user, and the customer terminology is for the external people who are going to talk to the bank, who are the customers of the bank. Uh, so users can enter email address, receive code through login, right? So it's like you enter your email and then you receive a OTP, and that OTP could be given back to the UI and you get into the account, right? But if you think about it, this works for a traditional system, but you need to be a little bit more secure for a bank application. So something that we are going to integrate is SSO, single sign-on, and also two-factor authentication via some sort of security key, like a YubiKey, for example, these things, right? And this is for the user. And for the customer, you can also log in through email, and then after doing that you need to have a two-factor authentication setup, or multi-factor authentication using some sort of a passkey or a TOTP provider, right? And this is how the flowchart looks. So you enter the email. Sorry, this is not the flowchart. This is the authentication one. So we are going to quickly log into the applications. So one thing to note here is for these two users, for these two people, there are two different applications. So the user is going to log into a different application, which is the admin panel, and the customer is going to log into a different application, which is the customer portal. All right. So I think you can see my new tab, right? Yeah. So the admin panel is here. It's like a different application, admin.staging.lana.gala.io, and we have multiple environments, which is why we have staging right now. And this is the user, right? And over here, I'm going to quickly log in. So we have a preset super admin user whose email address is this, and then we are using Mailinator. Mailinator is like a public inbox. So super user. All right. So now I am logged in into the admin panel of the Lana Bank application, right? And over here I can see some things in the dashboard. So this is the dashboard. We have some pending facility. We have one active facility. Some things are dispersed. We have $0.85 total collateral, right? And we can see certain stuff. We are going to delve through these things, but we can see some stuff in the dashboard, right? So this was about the onboarding for user. Is a facility a single? Sorry, I did not catch that totally. Is a facility a single loan by one person? Yeah, a facility is for one person, and it's not a single loan. So a facility can have multiple disbursals, and I'm going to explain that pretty shortly. So this was about the login for admin panel, and let me also log in into the into the customer portal. So if you think about it, a customer needs to be present in the system for them to be able to log in, right? So we are quickly going to create a customer for this. So if you go into customers and then if you hit create, let me shorten this. Yeah, if you hit create, I can enter an email address. So I'm also going to use Mailinator for this. So let's just say test one at the rate mailinator.com, test one, right? So I have this customer right now, and let me look at the inbox of this. We cannot look at right now. We have to first try to log in. So the this is the customer portal, right? And I have intentionally switched themes for customer portal into a dark mode and this to a light mode so that it's visually more relevant for us to do this. This is the admin panel. Admin panel is on the light theme and the customer portal is on the dark theme. So this was the email address, mailinator.com, right? And an OTP has been sent. So let me go ahead and write test one. Um, right. So this is the OTP, right? And I am in this person's account. Although, like, we can do this directly using the email OTP, but the target for us is to achieve these things in the authentication: login via SSO, two-factor authentication via security key, and two-factor authentication in customer portal. These things are underway, but yeah, these are the things that we want to do. All right. So you all, while we were doing this, we onboarded a customer, right? We went into the customer's page here in the admin panel, and we did create this test one customer. So this is what I was talking about in the customer onboarding experience. You can enter a customer's email address, and then they receives the email, and then they logs in, and then they fill up KYC details. So the KYC details is an interesting step because until unless you have KYC active on your on the customer page, you cannot create credit facility. You cannot grant loans. This is because most banks would require a KYC application process for the banks to generate like give loans to a customer, right? So you can create a link from the admin panel, but this thing is supposed to be automated. Like this would be automated, so the user would be able to see the KYC link directly in somewhere here. So I'm going to go into this link here and I'm going to activate myself. So this is a sandbox mode application, so I can just fill in random data. But we are using SumSub for the KYC process. And if I just hit continue and You need to provide your identification documents, right? I'm just going to hit things, okay, and then upload. I'm just going to write anything here, but you need to give proper details when we are going to. This is a staging environment, right? All right. So it says we are processing your data, identity document questionnaire. Hmm. Is this done? Yeah, it is. It says the KYC application link is present. Oh, I think I gave a wrong document. Hold on. ID card. I thought this is the right one. Okay, I would just give a
I
different.
think that's the Aadhaar card that you're passing. You need to provide a passport, like the checks are very strong on this one.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I gave a different document. Now it's working now. All right. So now if I refresh the page, it says the status is active on the customer, right? And also if I refresh the customer portal, it was previously saying not KYC. Now it should be KYC. We have basic KYC and the account status is active, right? So the customer is now onboarded, right? We have customer status active. Any questions up till now? This seems pretty smooth, I would say.
I have one. Sorry, someone said audio. Can you try to rejoin occasionally? Yes, it was a back recommendation. Sometimes Jitsi messes up, and rejoining can help. Also, you can try a different browser if you're on Firefox, use Chrome or something like that. I had one question. Is the default expectation that this happens completely online, or that there's first an in-person, like a very traditional in-person meeting between a bank employee and the person, or is this completely digital?
Actually, it's the second one. There is a expectation that there is a person involved because eventually you would see that a lot of our process that we have developed up till now is like we are just doing entries into the system. It's not linked to the custodian. It's not linked to any APIs or something from where we can automatically create the loans for them. So there needs to be a channel between the bank manager and the customers to talk with, and that should happen previously, because otherwise how would a user get a customer's email in the first place? There needs to be one channel previously created. All right. So now let's come to the main thing, which is the credit facility. And credit facility is the flagship thing. It's present in the credit facilities tab, and we're going to look at what that is. So, credit facility is a line of credit that has been approved up to a certain limit, backed by a Bitcoin collateral, right? And credit facility is basically a loan that the bank is going to provide to the customers, and credit facility is also going to have multiple disbursals. So before explaining these things, I'm just going to show a previous credit facility that is already present over here, right? And you can see that this credit facility was uh, given to this specific customer, and it has some status, and these are the details of the facility, right? So it says facility amount is $10,000, which means that this facility is approved up to $10,000. Doesn't mean that the customer has already taken that $10,000 out. It has just been approved, right? And therefore there is a facility remaining. So this means that $80 has been disbursed, right? And $9,920 is still remaining for the customers to take. And there are several fees over here. You can see that disbursed and outstanding interest, total outstanding, total interest, total disbursed, total cost. So uh, we want to actually know how to best represent this in a UI form. And but before that, I just want to explain the what the terms mean, right? So there there is a concept of a disbursal in a credit facility, and there is a concept of a repayment, right? So over here you can see that there is a disbursals tab and there is some repayment plan, right? And when this credit facility was created, and after the user took $80 out, then some amount and some outstanding amounts were created as in the form of interest, and there is a due date for when these things are supposed to be paid, right? And you can see these are upcoming, right? And some things can already be paid, and some things can be like, yeah, you have missed the payment date, something like that. So therefore there is this concept of disbursed, and there is a disbursed and outstanding. Maybe something has been disbursed but it's still not outstanding on a statement, right? And this is the outstanding interest. Total outstanding means how much total you have outstanding for your wallet. And there is some total interest fields and total disbursed and total cost. And I would explain these things better uh, in a gist a little bit later. Okay, so there are basically fields in the facility, and a facility is backed by collateral. Currently, it's Bitcoin, right? Bitcoin-based collateral. So we have 0.00001 Bitcoin in here, and this is the current market price for that, and this is the this is the collateral value in US dollars. And these are some other fields that we are going to look into. But basically, in order to have $10,000 in the facility, you have to had given some collateral, right? And you can imagine this is very low collateral for this much amount, right? So this is why it says a warning. It says under liquidation threshold, and we're going to show these things a little better in the upcoming slides. It says critical over here. All right. So there were. Let's go back to the slide. So there is a disbursal. Disbursal is the credit taken from a bank, and the facility can have many disbursals. And repayment is the money paid back to the bank by the customer. All right. Now we come to something called CVL. So a bank has to continuously assess risk about a specific credit facility that they have disbursed amounts on, right? Because what if the market value of Bitcoin drops, and then what happens is, like, let's say a bank has given $10,000 out, and the value of the collateral that they're holding is now $9,000. So the bank is at risk. You cannot have that, right? So such a situation can be indicated very clearly by a metric called CVL. So this is the full form of this is collateralization value to loan ratio, and if it's 100%, this means the value of collateral and the value of loan is same, right? So 100% CVL on a $10,000 loan would mean that the bank is holding $10,000 worth of collateral. If it was holding $15,000 of collateral, then the CVL would have become 150%. All right, so this is important terminology, and the terms of a loan is basically its interest rate, the duration for the loan, and the and some CVL values, right? And this is all about the CVL values, right? Uh, let's say so we are defining three different points in the CVL value threshold. There is a liquidation threshold, there is the margin threshold, and there is an initial threshold, right? So initial threshold is a specific CVL value that the bank needs to have in order to create a loan. uh, I'm not sure if everybody is following, but I want this is very important. So let's go back to the example that I was talking about. There is a $10,000 loan that the bank is going to give, right? And if the initial CVL value is 150%, this means the bank needs to hold $15,000 worth of collateral before giving the $10,000 loan, right? And this is the initial threshold that I'm talking about, and this is present in the terms of a credit facility, right? Then there is a margin call threshold and a liquidation threshold. Margin call threshold is like a warning threshold that we have defined, and liquidation threshold is under this liquidation threshold. If the CVL value goes, then the bank is going to liquidate the specific loan, the specific collateral by themselves, because then it's high risk. And under margin call threshold is this orange region, which is pretty dangerous to have, because like after that it would go into liquidation threshold, and above that it's fully collateralized. So this is a risk metric that banks are going to see. I can see that there are a few questions, so let me quickly go back to it. Uh, so Yashraj, I think he has a question. I think he posted the same question in the chat. What are the differences between concepts and vocabulary of typical secured loans versus BTC, I believe, BTC backed loans? So uh, I think the backing any loan against a collateral would be similar. And the fundamental difference, I would say, is this terminology that we have defined CVL versus what other banks define as LTV. And LTV is more of a traditional bank concept which says loan to value ratio, and higher the LTV, higher the risk. And for us, lower the CVL, lower the risk. I think there are other differences as well, but I'm not so familiar, to be honest. Maybe others in the team can answer. Uh, but we will come back to the CVL versus LTV discussion a little later.
Yeah, just to quickly jump in, Sandeepan,
Uh-huh.
I, I just asked this question because, like, my intention behind that was, I was thinking like if these terms are new to people and if they don't understand it, and even if we provide like a detailed explanation, it can be hard for people to understand some concepts. So like if we use concepts or terms that people are already aware of, I think that might be like use a metaphor or use like some concepts or try to visualize it in a familiar way. I think it might make people more comfortable. Like
True.
somebody like me, I can know some things, but I'm not very comfortable with all of these ratios and all these things. So that's why like I asked the question about like if there are these similarities, maybe they can be reused or the metaphor can be reused or something like that.
Makes sense. Makes sense. Yeah, yeah. I will take a note of that. Uh, but Andrew in our team, I don't think he has joined. He had reasons to like CVL better. But yeah, I completely agree that a familiar term is feels home, and the users who are going to use the admin panel would feel like, what is this new term? They would not understand. Makes sense.
Yeah,
Yeah,
there's probably a difference between the admins and the users. I'm pretty sure the people at the bank, they know all these terms, they use them all day long. They can easily understand all of these different things. But someone getting out their first loan, they might be a little bit overwhelmed, and for them, it's maybe just important to get a notification when there's a problem. They need to act on something, or they get maybe more maybe more extended feedback, more sentences rather than just single loaded technical terms.
yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
I would take this feedback
Yeah,
to.
mhm. Yeah, sorry guys, I have to drop. So I just had one more thing to. So I just quickly jumping in. Uh, I think like in traditional finance and in banks and like in all these places, like the UX is so bad, and the technical terms, like all of these things are so like intimidating that I feel like there is like this huge opportunity uh, on the UX and communication aspect that I think is like a really I think like you guys could do something amazing and like like really make things understandable and really make things approachable and things like that. I think there is a huge uh, opportunity there.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. Like, banking has been so like only the people who are in the banks can understand, and if we can make the UX such that anybody can understand like very easily, it would be amazing to have. Absolutely, yeah. We are in that direction. We're going in that direction. Yeah. Thank you, Yashraj, so much. All right, let's continue the credit facility discussion. So, credit facility life cycle is that the user is going to create a credit facility for a customer, and then the customer submits collateral back to the bank, and then the user updates collateral in system. Then the customer can ask for a dispersal, and then the user is going to disburse that amount, and then the customer is going to see that money in their balance. And we are going to go through this flow right now, right? So over here I am logged in as test one user, right? So let's go into the test one user. This is the test one user, and over here we can create a credit facility for this customer. So if you click on create and then click on credit facility, so over here you can see that there are some terms that have already been defined for a loan, and the terms are coming in from this template Lana Bank terms, but you can create more templates from the term templates. Over here you can create multiple templates, like a bank could have multiple forms of credit facilities that they would want to give. So creating a credit facility, so I would create that same $10,000 credit facility, right? And the liquidation CVL, sorry, not liquidation CVL, the initial CVL over here is 160%. So we would have to provide at least one $16,000 of Bitcoin for this credit facility to be active, right? So let's see. Let's go into update collateral. So it says 0.186 Bitcoin I would have to give. So right now, what happens is if you go into the customer page and if you refresh, so you would see that there is a credit facility that has been issued, but it is pending collateralization, right? So what we would want to do is like we want to have a button over here using which you can give the collateral to the bank. But right now this medium is offline, and then the bank manager updates the collateral. So let's say the user has given 0.19 BTC, then it's just added, and if you see, then the credit facility is now active. All right. So you can perhaps see that there has been a disbursal that has already been created of $80, and this is the structuring fee for this specific loan. So when you create a loan, many banks would want to do this, that they have 1 to 2% of the entire amount as the initiation fee for the loan. So this is that amount. But then now let's say the user wants to create a proper disbursal of $5,000. So then they initiate the disbursal, and now it has been confirmed. So now if I go into the customers page and if I go back, so you can see that in the customer's balance, it is now reflected as $5,000, right? And it's saying, if in the customer's page, it's saying that you have $5,080 as the outstanding balance, and it is fully collateralized and it is active, right? And you can see that there is one disbursal of $5,000. So this is like the initial disbursal flow for our credit facility, and this is exactly what I was talking about in this slide, right? But then the customer is now only able to see that amount. How do they withdraw it, right? So there is a flow for withdrawal, which is that the bank manager could go into the customer's page. It also, the USD balance also shows up directly here, and then you can create a withdrawal of that same amount, and withdraw credit credit facility, right? And then you initiate that withdrawal, and then you confirm that withdrawal, and then the withdrawal has been done. So this means the balance has gone to back to zero, right? And so you might feel that this is a TLDR. This is a Please note that currently money transfers do not occur directly in the system. However, upcoming regulatory reporting and customer integrations, after that, their transfers can be supported. So this is the withdrawal flow. So you have created a credit facility, you have created a disbursal, and then you have withdrawn certain amount, right? And the next thing would be to repay that amount back naturally, right? So then you come to the repayment flow, and the customer can see the repayment amount and date, right? So if you look at the credit facility, and you can see a repayment plan. Currently, this specific term template that we used has like everyday accumulative interest, which is why it's showing up like huge. But if we see, you can see accrual interval is one end of day, but we can have different forms of terms templates which would define that, like you have to pay every month, let's say, right? And yeah, that shows up as a repayment plan in that form. Then it shows up like in every month you have to repay certain amount. And again, we want to have like pay directly from this page, but it's going to come, right? But we can do that directly from this specific admin panel, and you can create a dispersal. Sorry, you can create a payment of, let's say, $5,000 back. But right now we are going to get an error. This is because like the first accrual interval is 1 day, and 1 day has not elapsed since the creation of that dispersal. Therefore, I'm getting that error. But after 1 day, we can we can create the dispersal. Sorry, we can create the repayment, and that is the credit facility repayment flow, right? So that's all about the credit facility, and you can imagine that the credit facility had these things itself. It has the risk, it had the terms, and it had disbursals and repayments, right? Pretty simple if you think about it. But yeah, that's about the credit facilities. And apart from that, I'm quickly going to go through some things in the UI. We have financial reports, we have the balance sheet. It shows an error. This is what happens in live demos, guys. All right. Sorry about these errors. We have some profit and loss statements, and there are regulatory reports. So regulatory reports are, if you generate links, these are some NPB4 reports. So currently we are doing these reports in like it's going to be compliant with El Salvador's reporting system, and this is like a huge XML file. This is for all of our accounts. There are also a persona, I think, which is for all of the customers that we have. And yeah, I think there are more reports that we are going to make, but these are some. And trial balance is also an accounting thing. Sorry for the accounts, we cannot show them for some error. All
I think
right.
if you just create a deposit like of like $6,000, that might go. So for any customer, just create a deposit
Oh,
greater than like $5,000. That should go away.
okay. Huh, indeed. All right, so you can see the balance sheet for this bank, and you can select a date range for the balance sheet, and you can see the settled balances, pending balances, either on USD or on BTC, right? Also in cash flow statements, you can see all these data, right? Profit and loss, also you can see that there is $160 of profit that the bank has made, and trial balances also we can see the trial balances for this account, for this bank, right? So these are about the financial stuff. Then there is a concept of committees, and there is a concept of audit logs. So I was telling that every action that any user does is reported, right? And by the way, I'm just logged in as a super user. We can have any number of users in any of these roles, right? So these are all the actions that was done, right? You can see which object and what was the action that was performed by whom. And then also there is the concept of committees, and committees is like a group of users. So let's say I'm creating let's say withdrawal approval committee, just in withdrawal approval, okay? And the withdrawal approval, like I can add in myself, this is the user that I have, and we can create many or more users, let's say gmail.com, right? And in this committee, I can just, sorry, I can just add a member, and I can link this committee to the withdrawal process. So if you look at the policies over here, and if you go into withdrawals, you can assign this specific committee, and you can have like two people need to approve a withdrawal. And now if I'm going to create a withdrawal, sorry, now if I go into the credit facilities, when did credit facility go? Yeah, if I go into the credit facility, and let's say the user now is going to create another disbursal of $1,000, right? So this is the disbursal, not withdrawal, by the way. Okay, disbursal is confirmed, and now the customer is going to have uh, now the customer is having some balance, right? $6,000. And if I create a withdrawal now, so of $1,000, so it's saying that approval process decision, we require some approvals, right? It's saying that this user has not voted, this user has not voted, but like even after I vote, it is still pending approval because the threshold I gave was 2. So there are many such features that we have designed, right? And we currently have a good system, I would say. uh, yeah, I think I covered through a lot of technical material of our product, and this was very needed for the design questions that we have actually. uh, but before going through them, do anybody have any questions regarding what I just showed?
I guess one question that I have is so it seems like this has to be integrated with various other systems. So it does not include its own wallet, from what I've seen, where it generates addresses and people have a deposit page. It would also not. It would be complementary to all the existing systems a bank already has. So
Yeah.
yeah, okay, great. And I was curious. Are you planning to also built in the Bitcoin wallet functionality? Because banks might not have that.
Yeah, so if we come back to the this slide, so the main thing that we were building was this, right?
Mm.
And we are going to support a lot of integrations, right? And using Bria, you can actually connect Lana to a Bria instance, and then you can talk to a Bitcoin wallet. So Bria and its underlying custodial would hold the custody of the Bitcoin as collateral.
Gotcha. Okay, and that would be pretty seamless then, in
Yeah.
addition to what we've seen. Okay, cool.
Absolutely, absolutely, yeah. But that integration has not yet been made. It's planned, but yeah, I think we were very focused on making these parts, and these things is the base on top of which the integrations and all the layers come on, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So now that the entire concept of Lana is clear, so here are some questions that is present, and one of those questions is CBL versus LTV, what Yashraj was pointing out. So, all right. So basically, there is a concept of dashboards in our page. So if we go back to the admin panel, you can see that there is this dashboard, right? So what first question I had in mind is that we also have a holistics page, and inside holistics you can see a lot of risk metrics, like data associated to risk metrics, and it would be, I did not I don't have access to holistics, so it has Arvin or anybody can, do they have holistics open somehow? Uh, but basically, we have this dashboard, and in holistics, we have another dashboard outside of which you can see all the risk metrics. So, do you think unifying those risk metrics would be good to have, or do you think separating them is good? That is one specific questions that I had, but I don't think you can answer that until you can see the holistics dashboard. Let's go back, go around to a different one. So UX around customers to request for a credit facility. So I was wondering, how should the user experience be for a customer to request for a credit facility, like what he was talking about, like there is no conversation channel between the bank manager and the customer. The customer can themselves request for a credit facility. How do you think that UX should be? And keep in mind that we have a list of term templates that they need to select from.
I
I
have a
guess
question.
Sorry.
yeah,
One second.
I was just gonna frame it, just add a bit of more framing as well, in addition to the questions, which is that I guess how we like to frame it as well too is just thinking of like people who are coming to this who are, I guess, Bitcoin native or who usually think of who are not as familiar with a banking backend, for example. Like, what's the first impressions on what's laid out? Like, what are things that make sense intuitively? What are things that are kind of like confusing in terms of like I look at this and having a little bit of an expectation of how this should work. This doesn't make sense. It's kind of like looking at things from that perspective as well. Keeping in mind as well that this is a Bitcoin backed lending thing. That's the context we're working with right now. So like things like collateral and liquidation and all that stuff.
Paper, I think you had a question.
Yeah, regarding what Sandeepan said, that what should be the UX of someone requesting, the customer requesting a credit facility. Um, I just wanted to ask how difficult is that? Like, what, except the terms that they need to choose, what else is required for them to request? Like, it's basing on the question, why can't it just be a button that they click on request credit facility, they fill out a few things, and then they click on request?
Yeah, the main point around this is like so you click on request, but after clicking on request you also need to submit the collateral, right? Because until
Okay.
unless you have the collateral, the bank cannot approve. So, from a customer's standpoint, do you think like I think there is a lot of variables around this. So, even after you have submitted the collateral, the bank might not immediately want to grant you the loan. They might
Yeah.
want to have a manual verification of the entire thing, right? So, um, how do you show that in the UI? Is there a Bitcoin design kind of guide around loans, uh, Bitcoin based loans?
No, we have, as far as I know, we have not dug into that one. I guess it depends on how far you wanna go back. Is it a completely new? I mean, obviously, it's someone who has Bitcoin, who has a decent amount of Bitcoin. Otherwise, they wouldn't even use this in the first place. So they're not completely Bitcoin newcomers. They have something that they're working with, so they're comfortable with that. They might not be comfortable with the idea of handing those over to someone, right? Do they still have a claim on that? Is it a multi-sig? Can it be just taken away, right? Can they trust this wallet and all of these things? And then they might not be familiar with lending itself. I use Revolut, and they constantly ask me to take out loans. It's always, take out 10,000, take out 20,000, and they always make it sound so amazing. I never look into it, but I'm sure they have some good UI solutions. So I would try to look at some of those neobanks for what their experience is like, um, and that would be an interesting thing to study, particularly the aspect around volatility, um, because and that's where I think probably notifications are an incredibly important thing, that you really keep people in the loop. That might be both on the user side and on the customer side. So they get maybe a weekly update, maybe a monthly update, maybe emergency updates if they're getting closer to certain margins with very simple actions. Um, but yeah, it's kind of it's hard to say specifically what the UX should be, just you know, off the top of our heads.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
if you could create like a flowchart kind of thing where we can see what steps does a customer need to go through, then it might be a little easier for us to think about it. Like that the customer does this, and then he or she needs to go through these three steps, and then they can finally ask for the credit facility or something.
Right, right. Um, Another question that we had was, so there are several repayment status. So I was talking about a GitHub gist that I was going to show. So these are all the like states in which a loan can be. So once a loan is disbursed, uh, the state can be like the total state is like both paid and unpaid. It includes all disbursed, every amount that has been disbursed. There is an outstanding disbursed state, which is the amount that not yet been paid or all time, outstanding and not yet due, outstanding and due, within a grace period, outside a grace period. So you can see that there is a lot of terminology uh, in the state definition itself, in this like outstanding, due, grace period, disbursed, right? Outstanding, past due, grace period, disbursed. So, and there is also there's the same things for interest. Uh, have you had a similar state type issue in any other Bitcoin related space item, or like, uh, is there a good solution to visually show this?
And just to add a bit of context as well, it's state plus action. So some states are passive states, some states are more active states. If you're getting close to liquidation and losing your Bitcoin, for example, that should be a more clearer UX alert or signal. So it's kind of like thinking of the different states, but also the uh, action that might be required from a user.
Yeah, I think thinking in terms of action is really the key here. If you the problem with states with labels like outstanding and due or so is that they're just single words. They can never really capture everything. And if you're familiar, if you're intimately familiar with the logic of these mechanisms, then you're like, okay, you can kind of figure it out, right? But normal people work more with sentences. If you can just say a sentence like, you need to pay this much by tomorrow, right? Or you need to pay a total of this much interest this year if you don't pay up or so, right? That is much easier to understand. So trying to match that with sentences which then lead into actions, I think that type of translation is usually a very helpful thing to do.
Right. So you can.
So
And I guess pairing with that, we were thinking of visual cues as well. So maybe Sandeepan, if you had one of those screens, maybe higher up, where we're thinking of maybe colors or like a different styling of the button or like visual signals. I guess we're thinking along those lines as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. A nice green, juicy green can make people very comfortable, and a red can make people very uncomfortable. So that's definitely a good additional signal.
Yeah. Like if we just make the collateral like, let's say, 0.01 per BTC, you would see something's bad. Like current civil is 8%, right? Why does it not show anything aside? But it's under liquidation threshold, right? It's bad. But we should have like a definite indication in the UI that it is bad.
Yeah, I think the bar that you've seen previously, where it's it has a red, yellow, or was it orange and green zones. I think that's something like that is very helpful. If it's just an indicator, like okay, if I see like this bar and I see an indicator that I'm in the green zone, I don't have to think at all, right? I don't have to interpret numbers. I just know that I'm okay,
Yeah,
and then I can act from there.
true.
one sec. So Christoph, you're saying that from the perspective of the relationship manager or the bank manager, or from the customer's perspective?
So I think as I mentioned before, I think from the customer, it has to be more intuitive and like
Yeah.
very basic. Like just tell me what to do, tell me if I'm okay, tell me if something's coming up, give me
Yeah.
notifications, bother me.
Yeah.
And from someone who works in a bank. Like if you, I don't know, I've done like user research on people who sell insurance, like sitting behind them and watching them how they go those forms. They are super fast, right? They don't use the mouse. They keyboard through all of these different forms. They're super fast. They know exactly what's going on. And for
Yeah.
them, you just need to design kind of differently. It's much more like a power tool. I'm sure they also sometimes they want to take a step back. Maybe the manager is more interested in seeing these overviews, but I'm sure someone who works is also when they get in the morning to see if something's really really urgent that they should do first, so they don't have to manually go over things. But I think
Yeah.
kind of in their day to day when they manage policies or customers and whatnot, then they're power users. They can pick things out very very quickly.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, we actually have thought something about this. So we introduced this thing called a command palette, and you can do the same actions that you were doing, like hitting these buttons. You can just do that from here directly. You can type what, like, let's say you want to go to the customers page, so you can go into the customers page, and this can be fast as well.
Yeah, something that I know from these type of flows too is that before um, there's often kind of a preparation. So there's a task, right? And then there's a preparation and there's a follow-up to each task. So it says, in these steps, you're going to do this. Then you do the steps. And then afterwards, if you press submit, the effects of this will make sure to inform the customer about this. Make sure you do this. This is going to happen next. This email will be sent out to these and these things. So that helps I think that helps both on both sides, the user and the customer, to make sure that they do things properly and don't forget things. Um,
Makes sense. Makes sense. That's really a good, helpful suggestion to show very clearly what the effect of the user's action would be. Yeah. Um, yeah. I don't know if there are design guides for Bitcoin backed loans. As you said, like, I think this is something very new, uh, and we can just take examples from other banks, new banks that have made similar things, right?
yeah, it would be amazing if a lot of the work you do, if we collaborate and come up with a few things, especially around the Bitcoin, the parts unique to Bitcoin. That'd be super cool if we, because the best thing is when design guidelines come out of actual work being done, right? When it's not made up, kind of based on theory, but actual real world experience and research and design work. That'd be amazing.
Yeah, yeah, awesome.
Well, yeah, we're kind of at the. Do you want to continue? Do you want to stick around, have more questions, or schedule another call? What does everyone think?
I'm good with staying or a different call, both.
Yeah. The we could, if you have very specific questions on certain flows, we could have a very different type of call, more like a work session or a brainstorm
Yeah.
session. Maybe you have some designs you lay out. Maybe we can gather some screenshots. There's also another option to have more of a collaboration work session, if you'd like. Be kind of interesting to dig in. My hunch is that it, that Web3 stuff also has a lot of borrowing lending going on. There might be some patterns to borrow there. I'm not really familiar with it. Um, but yeah, it's probably a whole bunch of stuff out there to get inspiration from.
Yeah. So Andre over here is our designer, and he was working on a prototype. I can share the prototype in the chat. Uh, Hi, Andre. Copy URL. So this was the prototype, and I'm also going to show that prototype in here if it loads. Yeah. So we start. How do I zoom out?
Yeah, fit width or something. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So this is the prototype, and this is not exactly the same what is here. There are certain extra things that are present in the prototype that we are planning to do, but we have not yet done the same in the UI. Right. So you can see this has a little bit of a different color theme to it, and uh, we are in. This is the dashboard, right? This is the search. Oops. Fit width.
Sneaky.
Right.
Do that. Go to the setting again
Huh?
and click on hide UI.
Uh,
Yeah.
but every time I click, it's refreshing. The page is changing. That is weird. What I would do is just I would share the Figma and wait, where is Figma? Yes, I think this would be the correct thing to share. Hold on, let me change screens. Uh, so- right, I think you can see the Figma page, right?
Yep.
Yeah. Uh, I know I would have to do the same here, but it should be the same, right? So this is how the search bar would be, right? It's a little bit more elegant, I would say. If you go back to the same page, this is the list of credit facilities, and we are going to show the things in red are things that are actionable. Like these are things that we want to be we want users to be highlighted about, right? Naturally, this is also under liquidation threshold, so you also need some attention. I think this is the revamped customer page. The checking balance is very clearly highlighted, and these are the pending withdrawals, right? And the transactions. So you can see, compared to what I was showing in the web UI, this is a little bit more concrete, and it's much more, I would say, better in a lot of sense, right? We also have the disbursals and the status. For every status, I think we're showing a status tick, like a status icon. There's a tick or cross mark. For credit facilities, we have this new UI, and these things still are saying this same, but I think we would want to take Christopher your feedback about the colors. Christopher or paper, I forgot who gave that feedback, but yeah, we also want to indicate. I think we also want to have that sort of a progress bar slider for indicating very visually what the risk status of this credit facility is. But yeah, I can see the repayment plan and the transaction or disbursals. I think you can click. Uh, yeah, these are the pending actions. I think this is the prototype. It's really good, I'd say.
Yeah, looks great. What specifically can we what would you like feedback on at the moment?
I think the main feedback we would want is like you pointing us to resources where we can find similar stuff, and from where we can take inspiration about how user flow, the user experience journeys should be like.
That's going to be probably going to be a tricky one unless we have someone who's designed or worked in directly in banks before. Um, I mean, a lot of I think a lot of this is not necessarily like super unique UI components or so, right? You work with fairly standard. It's more about the workflows that people go through and being sensitive to those and really highlighting the different actions that people need to do at different points in time. Um,
Right. Yeah.
From the customer side, it's a little bit easier to do research because we can actually go into our own banking apps and go through the loan
Yeah,
application process, share screenshots, and do all of these things. For the part where for a worker in a bank, um, it's harder to have that insight without observing them. And my guess is that the best insight you can get is if you actually take this to someone, a potential client, ask them to do certain things, and then observe them and see where they stumble, where they have questions, what's intuitive for them and what isn't.
makes sense. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Because we are making like the Lana Bank application is based on the open source stats, so we have to build both sides of it, right?
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting, right? The user, they have to use this. The bank employee, they cannot choose. They're gonna have to figure it out. They can make mistakes, and it can be slower for them or whatnot, but they're forced. For
Yeah.
the customer, it is much more sensitive. If they don't feel comfortable, they don't take out a loan. It is very important to gain their trust, give them at each step, keep them informed, make them comfortable with everything, because um, they need to be do this out of their own free will and be
Indeed, indeed.
happy with it. Yeah, that's an awesome project here. Very cool. So are you rolling this out, or you what's the status?
Yeah, so we have like 2 weeks before in the just one day before the Stefan Levera podcast with Nicholas. So we created the project was made public, and like it's active. Like we have 10 to 12 stars on our project, and I think it's gaining attention.
Mm.
Um, yeah. We still have not rolled out a 1.0 release because we are still in the process of building these things. The foundations need to be solid to create other things, right? But yeah, we are actively working.
It could be interesting if in the design community, I don't know if that's possible, but if let's say some of us are bank employees and others try to take out loans, and we actually kind of role play these different interactions, and like hands on, we kind of try to see how it works out with a staging setup or so. I think uh, that could be helpful to gather some feedback from.
That's a great idea. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Paper is interested. All right.
It's a huge project. I'm sure it's a multi-year effort as well. And you're probably also trying to get some banks on there yourself as for testing.
Yeah, we are. We have been working towards the Lana Bank application for I think about a year now, and yeah, we are looking for to get clients. Like if people are interested, they are. I think we are in touch with some people who are interested. People can email us at our Galoy email addresses. It's a fantastic thing, and it's super interesting to get feedback from the clients because they are actually the people who have had some experience in the banking industry. They have had some exposure, so their feedback is very very valuable to us.
Yeah, and I mean, it's in all our Bitcoiners' interest that these things kind of start taking off, right, and find their way into financial institutions. So, Rick, quick question: everyone here, would you be comfortable taking out a loan against your Bitcoin? No,
I know I would.
you would.
Not right now.
Ooh, why not?
You need to have enough to put it in collateral.
Good point. Good point.
Yeah.
Ooh, the KYC is the problem. Uh-huh.
Uh,
Yeah.
ah,
Yeah, maybe we're not the target
But
audience here. Those hardcore Bitcoiners. But yeah. Yeah, should we try to wrap it up? It's about 15 after.
yes. Yes.
Um, should we try to do a follow-up? I mean, that's totally up to you if you want to give us access to the staging and we test things out there, or if you want to give a follow-up call. Is it also okay if everyone kind of pokes around Figma maybe and leave some comments if anyone wants
Yes,
to do that.
we would definitely want people
Mhm.
to look into the Figma, and they can give comments.
Mhm.
That would be great.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Cool. Then let's wrap it up. I'm actually late to an IRC meeting here, so I need to hop off.
All right.
But thank you all.
But it
Thank you
was
for the
great.
presentation.
It was great talking to you guys. Yeah, I had an awesome time.
Any one more thing. Any other resources you guys have of the design stuff that you can share in the community? That would be nice. Any research you did beforehand, or any persona data you have?
Right. Actually, we did not do any form of UI design around this. The only things we looked at was like sometimes we took some inspiration from Dribble, but we could not match our designs with Dribble. But
Mhm.
yeah, sometimes we were thinking about what are the things that are necessary to show in the outer tables, like for example in the customers list view or a credit facility list view. These are the things. Biggest inspirator. Yeah, Mercury. Right. We did.
Mercury. Yeah. So if we are having another call, if you guys could create a flow kind of thing, like a flow map, user journey kind of thing, that would be really helpful before the next call.
Okay. Yeah. Sounds good.
Cool.
Is
Thank
it,
you so much.
and a totally different question, is it even possible to integrate something like this with eCash or
Yeah, I
is
think
it,
so. Nicholas mentioned in the interview that it will probably work with the cash and cash infettable stuff.
Yes.
So
yeah, that could be interesting. There you would probably get an audience that is just ready to hack away at things and just really get their hands dirty. Might be interesting. Cool. All right, but thank you so much. We're going to stop the recording now. If for anyone watching this, thank you for staying all the way through. Clearly it was interesting, otherwise wouldn't be here. Thanks.